second, I'm going to get my garlic. As well as my other ingredients, and I'm going to need them fairly shortly. So I actually did hard-boiled eggs in advance, just because hard-boiled eggs take a while to cook. So I did this I put 4 eggs into a pot of water, and then you cover that so it's about an inch of water over the top of the eggs, and you put that on a high heat on your stove and let that cook until the water comes to a rolling boil. Now, so once that happens, what I do is I turn the heat off and I cover that pan, but I still leave it on that heat source so it's still cooking. And I leave that for about 12 minutes. And then after that, you take it off, and you can do one of two things. You could run it under cold water to stop the cooking process of the eggs, which is ideal. You don't want to keep your eggs cooking, otherwise it can overcook, and then you get rubbery tasting eggs, and that's very unappealing. So what I actually did is I ran it under my tap, under the cold water, just so it stops cooking, because I plan to use it right away. Now, if you are making eggs, but you don't want to eat it right away, you can leave them in the shell, but I would suggest transferring it to a ice bath. So again, that stops the cooking, and you can leave your eggs up to 5 days covered, of course, securely covered in the fridge if you don't plan to eat it right away. And you can leave the shell on, you can remove the shell, that's up to you. So this is getting nice and warm here. So I'm going to get a little bit of oil going. Get that spread around a little bit. Be careful because these pots do get hot, so I'm just going to use my, just swirl that around. Oh, you see that smoke? Let me turn down this heat a little bit because it's a little too high. And then I will get my onions going. So let me turn this onto a high vent. Turn down that heat a little bit. So again, you want to keep moving your onions around so it's getting translucent. Now you see my onions are actually starting to brown, so that means my heat is way too high. So I'm going to turn that down even more. And just keep it moving. And if in doubt, so I don't risk overcooking my food, I'm going to take it off the heat for a second or two if I find it's getting a little bit too much. Because you want to break down all these big onion chunks as well, make them translucent. So as you can see, the color is now starting to change on the onions. They are turning more, they're sweating, so they're releasing flavor. Yeah, so I made the mistake of starting off with too high of a heat. Always check your heat, keep an eye on that at all times. So my onions are a little bit burnt, but it's not too bad. They have a little bit of a burnt onion smell, but it should balance out with the rest of the ingredients once I add them in. So let that cook for a second. And in the meantime, I'm just going to get out my other ingredients. Again, you want to keep an eye on this at all times, keep it moving. Once your onions get translucent, it'll take a couple minutes to do that. Then you want to hit it with the garlic. So my onions are still a little bit tough, or still a little bit raw feeling. So I'm going to let that cook for a little bit longer. But again, keep moving everything around so nothing burns. So I'm just going to quickly show you the other ingredients that I'll be using in this recipe. This is the rice cakes that I'll be using. So it's a cylindrical mixture made of glutinous rice flour, seasoned like salt, I believe, and water. So it's turned into like a paste. It's turned into a dough that's cut into these cylindrical shapes. So that's I'm not too sure how the Koreans use it or like how they make it. I think that's the process. I just did a quick Google search on it. They have different types too. They have also Chinese. There is other, I believe, Indian rice cakes. There's many different types out there, and they use different types of flour and to create it. Now, the other ingredient that I'm going to be using is this, which is fish cake. So what this is a minced fish paste with vegetables and seasoning and various other ingredients out there. Actually, not too many ingredients. I think it's mostly just fish cake or fish paste and vegetables and seasoning, and then it's flattened out into like this long sheet, and then from there you can either cut it into squares or into rectangles, or you can also form it into fish balls too, which you see in a lot of like hot pots and everything. So now my onions are pretty good and cooked down. I'm going to be adding some minced garlic. Again, you can use fresh garlic if you have that on hand. I don't, so I'm going to be adding minced garlic to this. Not too much though, because the garlic does get powerful. So add your garlic to that. Put that away. And then you want to start stirring this in. So it incorporates now, and then that garlic is now starting to heat up, starting to cook.